Hello. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to install and run PraireLearn locally for development. And this is by also using like an external grader. So there's a few extra steps here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to this page right here and the PraireLearn docs. And first you're going to want to download Docker. So they included a bunch of links here. You can do that. And instead of doing this step 2 right here, you're going to want to scroll down a little bit. And there's this part here where it says if you plan on running externally, then see this section. So if you click on this, then you're going to want to focus on these right here. So if you're on Mac OS, you're going to use this command. And if you're on Windows, you're going to use this one. So I'm just going to copy this. And once you're ready, you're going to want to go over to VS Code over here. And let me go back. And so once I copy in this command, you're going to see it's starting PraireLearn. And then to actually access the website, you're going to want to go to this localhost 3000. And once you first load in, it should be empty. But then if you click on this load from disk, then you'll see all of these assessments here. So I'm going to click on this fall one just for demonstration. And I'm going to click on homework 1 and sort of go through an explanation of like what each assessment sort of involves. So you'll see here, up here in this assessments folder, we have all 6 of our assessments. And since I'm on homework 1, I'm going to click on this one. So a lot of the time, PraireLearn will use JSON for their assessments or their questions. So you'll see here, our info assessment includes a unique identifier. So each JSON will need one of these, and you can get one by if you look up UUID generator, then you can just generate one, copy it over, and then paste it in. And then there's also, we have like the type, which is homework, the title, homework 1. Yeah, this is all pretty straightforward. But then we also have allow access. So this part, you're going to want to have one section that has credit 100. And this is what, this will be like the main section for when the students can actually complete the assessment. And then usually I like to add this credit 0 part. So this allows for the students to still access the question after their time is up. So they can like review it, they can sort of play around with it, but they won't actually receive credit for completing it after this part. So that's allow access. And then we also have our zones over here. So inside of our zones, we're gonna have a title and then the questions inside of that part. So we have like Rust Basics, and then our main question right here, which is Q homework 1-1. And you can see this over here. We have our main zone right here, Rust Basics. And this is the question ID. And then for specific questions, you can find them over here in this questions folder. So we have our question homework 1-1, and inside of this, the main thing you're going to want to focus on is this info.json and this question.html. So every PraireLearn question will be comprised of a JSON file and an HTML file. But since we're doing external grading and sort of like a file editor built in, Then there's a little bit more that we add. So right now I'm just going to focus on the JSON and the HTML, and then I'll get to the external grading part in a minute. So again, we have our unique identifier up here, and then we have things like the title. So like we have vectors and maps. You can see over here. The topic is Rust, and then this part we have our external, or we specify that our grading method is external. So we include a Docker image. So this is what sort of like builds up the testing environment for grading. And then we have our entry point. So this is just a bash file that runs before the code is executed on the student side. So if you want to find this bash file, it'll be down here in server file course. And you probably won't want to change anything inside of here for now. It should be all set, but this is where it's located. And then this Docker image, this can be found on our Docker Hub. So I'll go over here, and you can see this is where the Docker file is actually hosted. And then this is a separate repository. So this is what actually like builds the testing environment for external grading. So it's pretty straightforward. This is just a Linux Docker image, and the only thing we did was install Rust and Cargo, and then we installed Python and pip, which are both required for what we're doing with the external grading. And then we have a few other things, like we make this dummy project, and then we add in like the grading scripts and some of the requirements. So this part is like the Python requirements. So you see here we just have this simple requirement. And then we also have our cargo.toml. So this is like the Rust dependencies, and all these are required for the MPs and the homework that we wrote last semester. So yeah, that's it. It's pretty straightforward. We might need to edit this a little bit this semester in case we want to add like some new dependencies, or yeah, that's about it. That would probably be the only reason to edit this. So there's not really a huge need to worry about this part, but this is sort of what comprises the Docker file. And then going back over here, let's take a look at our HTML. So if you open up this question, you'll see this HTML is actually what will show up for the question. So like this text here matches the text we have here, and this part down here is important. So this is our file editor, and you can actually find sort of the specific elements that make up a question on the PraireLearn docs. So I'll go over back to the docs really quick, and it should be under this elements for writing questions. So there's a few things here, like we have standard multiple choice, checkbox, string input, integer input, but this is the main thing we'll be using for like our larger homeworks and MPs, this file editor. So you can see file editor, this part down here, and this part will include like our file name, and then this part is, or these two lines are just sort of like aesthetic theme, And then this part is the actual source file name. So if you look over here on the left side, we have our lib.rs, and I'll get to that part in a second. But then we also have, down here we have our submission panel. So if I save and grade this, then you'll see it's completing our external grading job. And the submission panel is comprised of a few things. So we have like our file preview and our external grader results. So this file preview is just a preview of what like the file that the student submitted. And then these external grading results, it'll just include this message right here. And yeah, you'll see build was successful, so that's a good sign. And then we also have our different unit tests. So you'll see here, this is our lib.rs file. As you would imagine, they just match each other. So if you want to edit what will show up for the students inside of this file editor, you're going to want to edit the source file right here. And then let's actually take a look at our unit testing. So we have this test folder, and it includes our test points. So you'll see here there is 9 test points, and they match up with the test points over here. And then we also have our integration.rs. Okay, so over here we have our integration test. So you'll see this top line has extern create dummy projects, and then this dummy project is actually the student code. So this will be running our solve quadratic equation from over here, from the file submission. And then we also have our toSum function over here. So this is just done with a simple assert equals. So we assert that the student's dummy project equals the solution we have over here. And then this is just done for all of the unit tests. It's pretty basic. These ones are a bit different. Or we have like just regular assert over here. And it's just to make sure that the student's program is following behavior that would be expected. And to actually test this, we have our solution folder up here. So after you write the MP, you're gonna want to add in a solution. This just makes it easier for like office hours. They can go over here in the solution folder, and you'll see we have our lib.rs solution. So if I take this and paste it into our 2 functions on the left hand side, then you should see that all of our tests pass. Yep. And notice the second time we run this, it's actually a lot faster than the first time. And this is because we cache all of our cargo requirements and dependencies. So it's not really necessary for cargo to re-download all of that the second time it's run. So it's able to finish testing a lot faster than the first time. And I can take a look at another one of our homework problems. So go over to assessments, and I'll look at MP0. So over here we have our calculator, and this is MP0. So the info assessment JSON looks basically how you'd expect it. It's pretty similar to the first one. So that's that. And then over here, this info part also looks pretty much exactly the same to homework 1. So we have our external grading, same settings, different title obviously, and then it's pretty much comprised of the same things. So like we have our question.html, and here's all the instructions. Then we have our file editor and our submission panel. And again, we use this lib.rs file name. And then inside of here, this part matches what's provided over here for the student. And then inside of tests, again, we have our test points. So if I run this, you'll see we have 7 tests over here. Yeah, so this is 7 tests. Even though it says 9, this is because these are worth 2. And you can specify the amount of points for each test by editing this part over here. And then we also have our integration.rs part. So this will have all of the actual unit testing. And again, we just use assert to make sure that this will match the part that's actually run by the student. And we also have our included solution over here. So inside of source, this lib.rs, this is our included solution. And you don't need to worry about main.rs. This is just kind of a placeholder. Same thing with target. This is just auto-generated. And you can ignore the test part inside of solution. So the main things to focus on are our solution here inside of source, the actual tests outside of solution, and then we have like info.json and question.html. And then for a more basic test, or a more basic question, I'm gonna go back and look at our spring assessment. So this should be spring 2022, so this question. So you see here, this one is more basic. This is just a homework survey. And this is comprised of a JSON file and an HTML file. So there's no external grading part over here, but grading method is set to manual. So this won't like automatically save and grade it. They can just save in their input, and then we can look at it later for the survey. And then this question.html, this part is pretty straightforward. So we have our question panel, and then we have our string input. So like the string input takes in a few things. We have our answer name. So this is just the variable name that the answer will be stored in. And then we have a label. So that's what shows up in this part right here. And these more simple questions, it's going to be useful if you look at the PraireLearn docs, so you can actually see some of the elements that are used inside of HTML. And that's about it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching.